ball. That's just like it sounds. It's in the shape of a peanut. And if you put that between your legs and move your hips around, if your baby was going to come out posterior, then often that can turn a posterior baby to the anterior. Okay? So that's when you want to communicate with your doctor's nurse. I'm feeling a lot of back labor. What can we do to turn it? Okay? Walk on stairs. This is still with back labor. Lean forward and get on your hands and knees. Because the bulk of your baby is in its torso, right? So if you're leaning forward, that little torso is going to turn because gravity is going to move it that way a little bit. So it's more likely to come out. So the more you're leaning forward, I don't know what the walk on stairs is. I learned that in my doula training. It seems to work. I don't know why. But if you are feeling that back labor and you're still at home, if you just want to kind of walk on some stairs, supposedly, works. Or crawl on your hands and knees on stairs. That's like covering all your bases. So this is much more intense, and mom becomes more focused, and the loss of modesty happens. Mom just starts to like not care. All right, just get this sheet off of me. I don't care. I just want it off. And starts to feel overwhelmed, as we saw with some of those ladies in there. And for comfort, a bath is fine during this time. A shower, really like showers because you're upright and not so relaxed as the bath. Upright positions, the ball. We're going to do a little ball activity later, not today, but some other time. Walking, and then hands and knees, and then drink plenty of water. Okay, so our transition is the big one, the one that they always cut to, and baby story, and maternity ward, and you know, whatever those are. That's when your cervix goes from 8 centimeters to 10. This is our 10. Remember, we started at 1. It's a big, big change. We're not going to get too antsy if things aren't moving fast enough. Transition is when contractions are 60 to 90 minutes long. Apart. That says minutes. I should say seconds. Sorry, cross it out. That'd be terrible. Contractions are 60 to 90 seconds apart. No, long. Oh gosh, I really screwed that up. Okay, they're long, and then they're 2 to 3 minutes apart. Okay? Sorry, typo. So here's the deal with transition contractions. They hurt, but the hardest part about them is that you don't get a break. Okay? So if you think about it, you have as much of a break as your contraction is long. So when I've seen moms experience labor and they're in transition, the bigger, harder part is gearing up for the next one that comes after only 60 seconds of your last one. Okay? So they start to say, oh, it's just feeling like it's one on top of each other, and there's no break. That is the most challenging part, in my opinion, of transition contractions. Okay? The pain is greater, but there is less break. And there is less break, I should say. This could last anywhere from 10 minutes to 5 hours, but the average is 1 to 1.5 hours for first-time mamas. Okay? And it goes by fast. No one's watching the clock. You don't even know it. Okay? And mom gets really emotionally discouraged, scared, angry, and easily influenced and tired. Now, what's happening is you're moving from your mammalian brain up here to your reptilian brain back here. And so you are, as moms, feeling like, I can't do this anymore. You have to lose that rationality. And so what part of that losing that rationality is saying, I give up. I can't control this. I can't think my way through this. I can't do this anymore. And you move towards that reptilian brain. But in that process, you're sitting there saying, what do? I really didn't want an epidural, but now I'm feeling like I want one. Should I get one? You are so easily swayed by anyone else's opinion because you just are at the end of your rope. But that is very much the hormones and sort of that primal reptilian brain coming out, not that mammalian brain. Because you can't rationalize your way through this part of the labor. Physically, you can feel like you get the shivers. It almost looks like shock. So you feel like you're shivering, which can be kind of scary to moms, because you're like, I'm going through shock. What's going on? I can't control my body. You can vomit. And did anyone have real pukey times during first trimester? Were you puking? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'll probably get to the part during just one more thing. Awesome. Totally. Down on the fear. You're Matt, right? Matt? You're like,
I didn't puke that much, so there's a lot of noise.
You'll be holding the bucket. But yeah, typically those hormones that are surging from that first trimester are surging again. So if you're a puker from your first trimester, you might be able to look forward to that again. And then you're tense. So what's happening is you're sitting here or you're lying here in bed and you're like, no, I don't want any more, I can't handle it, and you're just tensing up, okay? And as birth partners, you need to, Chad, say, okay, Monica, I want you to focus all your energy down, okay? That's where you're birthing this baby. It's all going down. Don't tense it up. So you watch for her face. You watch for her eyebrows. You watch for her jaw, her hands, her feet. And in one part of there, Becky, the girl with the pointy ponytail, she was really, really tense in her, her brow. And if I were her doula, trying to touch your eyebrows, I would just be like, okay, just let it go. And let it go down. You know, that sort of conversation. So you watch for where she's keeping her tension, and then you ask her to just release it. Now, one thing I would not suggest saying is relax. Because I tell my kids to relax all the time, and it is it's wrecking them for life. Because I'm like, just relax, you know, and I know that they don't associate relax with a nice thing to be told to do. So I try as a doula not to ever tell anyone to relax, because it's not very nice to just tell someone to relax. What you want to do is show them physically where they're keeping their tension. So Jesse, you're really you're tight in your shoulders and you're tight in your hands. What I would do is just use my touch to try to let that go, or just say release your hands, or something like that. So birth partners during transition, this is really important for you to do, and to be aware of where that tension is, because if she's storing all her energy here in tension, it's not going where it needs to go. This is where that energy needs to go, okay? Then we're into the pushing. So second stage is pushing in the birth. So your cervix has completely dilated, and a lot of times Dr. Allmeyer will say this, she's like, I don't feel your cervix. And you're like, wow, where did it go? Basically, it's your thin lifesaver, and it's gone. She doesn't feel anything. When she feels up there, all she feels is just a tiny, tiny little edge of it in the baby's head. Sometimes she'll feel up there and say, I can feel like a little lip right here. And that just means that one part of your cervix is not smoothed out. It just needs to finish smoothing out. It takes a little while. So your cervix is completely dilated, or it's not there. You might get a rest and be thankful stage, like that one woman did. She was just sitting there talking after she had her transition contractions. It was lovely. 20 minutes just talking to the nurses. If you do that, take advantage of it. Okay, don't feel like you have to push if you don't feel like you have to push. You will feel pressure to push, like a bowel movement, and you will even feel this with an epidural, most likely. Our anesthesiologists have gotten very good at giving a dose that is appropriate so that you can still feel things to push. Okay. You can ask to have your epidural turned off if your pushing is not effective. So this is like a news flash. It just makes so much sense to me. I attended a birth this summer, and Mama got an epidural, and she got through a really huge portion of her labor. That was really challenging. But then it was time to push. She was fully dilated, and she was trying to push, and she could not get the right. She could not get the right sensation to push because she just couldn't figure it out, and she wasn't pushing very effectively. And so Dr. Peterson suggested maybe turning off the epidural, which I was like, oh, brilliant, because we just got through the hardest part, which is transition, and she got to kind of get an epidural for that, but then she needed the extra help with the pushing. So they turned it off, and you couldn't really even tell when it wore off, but except for to say that pain-wise, except to say that her pushing was so much more effective. And so she could actually feel the contractions and feel where she needed to push, and that was just awesome. So I asked Dr. Peterson, why don't we always do this? Because pushing can be hard when you have an epidural. And she said, well, there's this whole theory that it's really cruel to turn off the epidural when a woman's still in labor. And I'm like, no. So anyway, I would think about that. If you have an epidural and you're not doing effective pushing, then I would see if you can turn it off if you're up for it. And then don't push until the provider says it's okay. So why would we not want to push if it's not time to, if we're feeling the urge but the provider's saying no? Why would the provider say no?
You're not fully dilated?
Exactly. Yes. Our provider's not there. Sometimes. Yes, you're not fully dilated. If you feel the urge to push because that baby's so low and pressing right up against everything, but you're not fully dilated, you can damage your cervix pretty significantly. We have a little visitor. Oh, hello. Or provider's not there. And so at that point, you want to try to not, anything you can not bear down. And so your breathing then becomes like this. Like you're blowing out a birthday cake. You know, it's just, or candles on a cake. You just don't want to do any sort of bear down push. We'll talk about that more with the breathing exercises that we do. So pushing can last a few minutes to 4 hours. Average for first-time moms is about 1 to 2 hours. And we are going to talk about the pushing stage when we talk about the breathing, okay? Like how to breathe through it and how to push through it. So, because ironically and crazy enough, it's not real intuitive. And then the third stage is the delivery of the placenta and newborn care. So baby goes to your chest, babies go to your chest as long as everything's okay and medically okay. Sometimes they have to go where they're going to get a little bit more suction. Twins probably would be very unlikely to have them go right to your chest. But maybe one could. You never know. But they'll keep it in the room and they'll just go to the warmer. Dad gets to go over, you know, with it but most likely baby will go right to your chest. Cord will be cut while it's on you. Little times, you know, blood spurts a little bit, but nothing too terrible. And then they take the APGAR, which measures the baby's health at 1 minute and 5 minutes. And APGAR measures their color, their respiratory rate, their breathing. I can't remember the other ones. And 5 different characteristics. Each one gets 2 points. So a 10 is like perfect APGAR. Hardly ever babies ever come out with a 10 at 1 minute. At 5 minutes, sometimes you see it. But at 1 minute, you want an APGAR of about 7 to 10. At 5 minutes, you want it more like 8 to 10. They just want to see improvement. But